Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, a cannabis investigation. Also, the high cost of hypocrisy. And there's a lot of nonsense being talked about around gaming.
That's what they call a sanity clause. You can't fool me. There ain't no sanity clause.
Can we just vote? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR.
Hey,
welcome.
Hello.
You know, it's supposed to slow down this time of year.
Yes.
It has not slowed down for a second.
No.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting rulings, and of course, there are plenty of interesting rulings in courts this week
Right.
that are historic. But Bill Pryor, native of Alabama, he is the chief judge of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta. And he heard the case of Mark Meadows, former chief of staff to Donald Trump, who is also accused, along with former President Trump, in Georgia of the racketeering and the attempts to overthrow the election down there.
They just needed them to find them a few thousand
They
votes.
need to find 11,300 and some odd votes.
Right, yeah.
One more than the Bidens got, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, but he came out and ruled and said, look, part of your job as being chief of staff is not to try to overthrow an election. That's not in the job description.
Yeah.
But the thing that struck me was that this is a conservative justice who could have done partisan bidding, but he has not. Josh, he did not. And he is in a list of some judges that have said, no, we're not putting up with this nonsense. You're going back to Georgia and you're going to be tried in Georgia.
Yeah, it's, I feel like there is, with a few exceptions, there's a pretty clear line of old school judges from no matter which president appoints them. Once they get that federal appointment, then they take on a different demeanor almost.
Right.
Yeah, okay, Bill Pryor's conservative. But at the same time, I think he likes to think of himself as someone who is loyal to the law, loyal to precedent, loyal to a certain set of standards that he wants to try to apply. Certainly I've disagreed with a lot of Bill Pryor's rulings, and it's natural. I think we look at things differently. But at the same time, I think the matter of consistency is something that's very important to guys like Bill Pryor and some others, where some of these other hacks that have been put in of late, they don't, and that's the reason why you end up with, crazy decisions, and talk about the domestic supply of infants and things like that, and things to make cases that should not be made and that they know should not be made. And so I think Bill Pryor did what we should probably expect a Bill Pryor to do.
Yeah. And I think, and look, I don't care if it's a conservative, a liberal, or whatever, as long as you stick to what we can understand is law.
Yeah.
I mean, he also said, your job is, if you're accused of a conspiracy of trying to overthrow an election, it's not your job description.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that.
And what Meadows was trying to get was get it moved to federal court and say that, well, this is part of my job, so whatever my boss told me to do. And Pryor went, No, this was not part of your job. This is not in your job description to try to overturn an election.
Yeah, which to me shows that at least on some level, there's a belief that that's what happened in Georgia.
It's weird. I was going to say, it's weird that you have these little pockets of judges, of politicians on both sides of the aisle that simply acknowledge this as being truth, that these people attempted to overturn an election. However they went about it, some might say they had a PowerPoint plan for it, which they did. And but that was the goal. They were going to overturn an American election and to keep a person in power, which is something that has never happened here before.
And I think that's why all these cases are important, that we get judges that are strong enough. That's why they're lifetime appointments.
Right.
So they don't have to bow to anyone.
Well, I mean, this is a prime example of readjusting itself. Democracy, prior, unlike some other judges, actually adhering to the law and taking the law over partisan politics to readjust, where we are, to be able to get democracy back on track. I hope.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
At least that's the idea.
And you're going to have to hold these people accountable.
Yes.
I mean, this is what happened. There's no doubt about this. This is what took place. They wanted to undermine this election. They wanted to reverse the results. They wanted to keep Trump in power. This is what happened. Now, you can say, well, I think this or that or whatever, but the fact of the matter is there's been no clear evidence of an election fraud anywhere that they claimed, that there's clear evidence of what they did to do this. Yeah. And so at some point, you're going to have to hold people accountable for this.
And I really appreciate the fact that it went before Judge Pryor and that he ruled that he has to stand trial.
Right. Yeah.
Just like you or I or anybody else would have to stand trial for their actions. One of the most disturbing things that has come across my desk in years is the fact that you have Senator Tommy Tuberville, Congressman Barry Moore, and Congressman Jerry Carl all saying they don't want to send any more money to Ukraine. This is just ridiculous because they don't want to send money, too much money to Ukraine. Well, how many American lives do they want to put on the line to send to Ukraine? How many boots on the ground where you have the blood of Americans and people coming back in body bags from that part of the world?
Well, this is, once again, read your history. Go back and look at your history. Yes, it's Ukraine now. But what about the neighboring states? What about their neighbors that are part of the UN? Once they start into that, and that is, Putin says it's a land grab. This is what he wants, is to reinstate the original. And so once they start getting into those UN countries, the United States has no option but to get involved.
Well, Josh, he came out this past week and said, I have no intentions. I have no intentions. But in 2021, he said his full intentions were to take back all the territories that belong to the former Soviet Union.
Yeah. Well, if you can't trust Putin, who can you trust?
That's true.
Look, this is a matter of really kind of stupidity here. And the lack of an ability to see what's going to come down the line. And for relatively smart people, you can look at this and say, if we don't do this, then we're going to have these things that's going to come. And these people lack the ability to do that. And their entire political career have been based on political expediency for their own personal gain. And that's all this is. It's very popular right now to say, we shouldn't be sending that money overseas. We should be keeping it for Americans here. And which is a nice thing to say. It fits nicely on a little bumper sticker or a campaign slogan or whatever. But in the actual world that we all live in, it's stupid.
Yeah, it is. Because for every dollar we spend, it means that we do not have to lose an American life.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
There seems to be a new wave of aggressive driving lately.
You see those people, they are the ones that are tailgating other people because they have to get to their destination now.
Weaving in and out of traffic, looks like they could care less about who's around them. There's no one else on the roadway. They're the only one there.
Aggressive driving can be the difference between life and death.
All because somebody thought they needed to be the front of the line and get there first.
Slow down. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Josh, you wrote a column this week to address some of the nonsense about the gaming bill that
this week?
Speaker Ledbetter.
There's not enough words.
I know, right?
Representative Witt and Speaker of the House Ledbetter want a gaming bill that actually puts some teeth into the illegal gaming. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have some outlay of what is legal.
Right.
But some folks are throwing out every nonsensical effort they can.
Yes, they are.
To cloud the issue so that it sounds like, but they sound like idiots when they do it. And you pointed that out.
Well, listen, it is complicated, all right? But now I think a lot of people, like our Attorney General, should be well versed enough in this now to know that you can't simply say something like, well, we should just change the laws. That's what we should do. We should just change the laws and make it more illegal. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice thing to say. And it sounds good when you're talking to a group of farmers that want to believe that there's a nice, easy solution to all this. And it's just, hey, let's be tougher on these guys who are breaking the law right now. But it's far more common. All right, let's take, for example, Macon County or Jefferson County, where there are constitutional amendments in place that allow for bingo. Okay, now they believe it's electronic bingo in that county, and they have put the constitutional amendment allows for the sheriff to oversee what's legal and what's not legal. Yeah. And so when Steve Marshall says these elected officials are not upholding the law, he's referring to the sheriff. The sheriff is the one that gets to determine what's legal and illegal in those things. And so that's where this whole fight has been for the last 25 years. So if you're going to change that and put more teeth in the law, the only way to do that is you've got to override all of these constitutional amendments for Jefferson County, Lowndes County, Greene County, Macon County, and all around it. Even, your grandma's church bingo stuff, they're allowed to play that through a constitutional county amendment.
Right.
You're going to have to override all those, and the only way to do that is through a constitutional amendment.
Exactly.
And so the people are going to have to vote on this. And good luck getting them to vote on banning all of it, okay? Yeah. And good luck on the push. And so what Ledbetter and Witt are doing they're trying to say, we need to define what's legal, what's illegal here. Yeah. All right. And the only way to do it, we're going to have to give some people a piece of this pie. We're going to do it in a manner in which we think we can get it passed. Yeah. Then we're going to say these things are illegal, and we're going to use some of the money that we're going to recoup from legalizing this gambling and taxing it properly for the first time ever. And we're going to enforce these laws that we've now passed. And we're going to put some people in jail, and we're going to stop this nonsense where everybody's playing it in the back of a gas station.
Well, Susan, and this is what has been pushed for years and years and years, to say, look, you've got to start off, you've got to have a gaming commission. And you've got to have the rules of the road. Yeah. But that's all got to be passed by the legislature. But this thing has gotten out of control where there's thousands of illegal gambling spaces because no one has had the courage to actually pass a law to let the people vote.
Well, even if the sheriff goes in a lot of these instances where you've got it in the back of a gas station or whatever, it's basically a misdemeanor fine and they're right back in business. I mean, so you've got to have a commission that regulates that oversees it and says, okay, while bingo is legal, and we all know that you have to have a server, you have to have two machines that work in order for either one of them to work. They have to be connected. But if you've got a slot machine, which you can just plug into a wall anywhere I can plug one in the wall right here and it'll work. That's illegal. I don't care if it's in Macon County. I don't care if it's in Jefferson County. Right. That is illegal. Right. And these things have got to be regulated.
Yeah, but it's even more complicated than that. So even when Steve Marshall talks about doing these things, right, and saying, well, we're going to change these laws, or we need stiffer penalties for these sorts of things. Well, the problem with a lot of it is it is so complicated of who. All right, let's say you do change this law and you can make it a felony for this gambling in the back of the gas station.
Right.
Well, in Macon County, Jefferson County, and these other counties, they believe what they're doing is legal, which is why every time they go to court in Macon County and Jefferson County, the AG always loses. And to prove that, what they're doing right now to shut these things down is they're not filing criminal charges. They're filing civil nuisance lawsuits against these establishments. And so that's how far down the road we are with this. It's so complicated and convoluted because of the years and years and years where we've kicked this can down the road and piecemealed it together that there's no simple solution right now. And so the comprehensive approach to this is really the only thing that will work.
It is the only thing that will work. Go ahead, Susan.
I got to bring up my favorite highlight of the week, though. That is when Chris Elliott came out and said, we can't put it on the 2024 ballot. We just can't because too many people will show up to vote.
Yeah.
Well,
too many Democrats.
Too many Democrats.
Yeah.
But bless his heart.
They're not winning that. And number two, you've got a guy, the most pro-gambling guy in the whole race is a Republican. Greg Albritton. He's the guy that sponsored all these bills.
But God forbid Democrats should show up, or anybody should show up to vote if they don't want.
And Senator Elliott was worried about the turnout in District 2.
Yeah,
so that Republicans would have a chance to win. Well, they don't have a chance
They
to
don't
win.
have a snowball's chance in hell. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
pardon
there
my
you go.
French.
But anyway, there you go. I tell you what, though, we got to get to this real quick, but I wanted to spend more
Wow, that was
time
so
on
much
it, but that's
fun.
okay. You know, we've been talking about the possibility of someone going to jail over the cannabis fiasco.
Well, it's kind of who or how many.
You know, right. But Josh, we hear word on the street from reliable sources that there are at least the beginnings of an investigation by the FBI and the Attorney General's office.
Well, there's certainly people calling around, and reliable sources is kind of putting it lightly because these are people who are actually contacted by these folks, and so they didn't want to use their names, but they had, they recounted the phone calls. I know who called them from the AG's office. I know who called them from the FBI. And I've got their names and cards and stuff, and so, but it's you're right. It's a matter of what they find. I think they're interested in the scoring process that took place and some of the oddities that were surrounding that. And we'll see how far they get.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of this scoring where someone who actually was rated 12 and another company was rated, 10 or like that. But then the 12 guy gets it and not the 10 guy, although they were identical except one scored higher. Huh?
Right.
Well,
but also there was no discussion of why. Nobody, in any committee meeting in the State House, in any committee meeting anywhere, there's discussions of why things are voted on and what are what's the value of that, and there was no discussion.
Right, and also one of the major focuses here seems to be on the discrepancies in scoring that were handled by South Alabama. Some of the graders there. I don't know, South Alabama was just mainly the hub where this went down, and so it's tough for me to keep saying South Alabama because I know they're not really involved in this thing. But yeah, those grades, where you would have one guy score the security at 50 and the next guy scored at 2.
Yeah,
and it was just
it made no sense.
Yeah, why? What happened there? And I think that's one of the things that they're kind of looking at.
Yeah, it is. All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Today, Montgomery is a safer city. It's time to shift the narrative and take control of our future. We're reopening community centers, remediating blight, and revitalizing neighborhoods across the city. And we're unleashing new opportunities. Over the past year, companies have invested a record-setting $2 billion in Montgomery and created 2,000 jobs. This is a new Montgomery. And together, we're reimagining the possibilities.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. You know, Susan, I'm sure your mother said it, mine did too. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. But we've seen a lot of people in the Republican Party, especially of late, find themselves with big rocks going through their glass houses. And this goes to these culture wars, because these are people that are anti-LGBTQ, they're anti-books, they're anti-science, they're just anti the things that most Americans think are normal stuff, you know, are acceptable in society. Like, okay, so the head of CPAC, which is the big PAC that has all the crazy Republican meetings, everybody comes, they dressed up, they had a gold Donald Trump statue.
You mean like the golden calf?
Well, yeah. But a golden Trump.
I know.
The golden Trump, yeah. They're idle.
But they had that. Matt Schlaub has been accused of sexually harassing young men. This is a married man who is supposedly very conservative. And again, I don't judge him if that's his preference or what he wants to do with his life. I don't judge him. He could probably need to talk to his wife about it, see how she feels about it. But he's been accused by several young men of him sexually harassing them. And so, but yet he's really, you know, a big Trump supporter, a big anti-LGBTQ guy, a big Christian values guy. How does that square, Susan?
It doesn't square. And it's just like the Zieglers out of Florida, you know, the same situation where they were in a relationship with a woman and the woman was more interested in the wife than the husband.
Right.
And, you know, and what they've done is they painted themselves into a corner, basically. They don't want to address issues like workforce development, healthcare crisis, you know, education, stuff like that. So they choose these culture wars to draw attention to themselves, but, you know, disguise that they're not really doing anything in the background. And now it's beginning to come back home to roost.
Well, Josh Bridget Ziegler is one of the co-founders of Moms for Liberty, who's been one of the most. They started off as anti-masking. They developed into anti-LGBTQ and book burning and book banning and all that. But listen, I don't care if she's bisexual.
No.
Her husband obviously doesn't care.
Yeah.
But they want to control everybody else. This is hypocrisy because they want power.
Yeah, you know, I watched a portion of. She's also on the school board,
right?
In
that's
Florida.
True.
And I watched a portion of one of those meetings where a gentleman stood up and said, "Listen, I would vote against you losing your job here over this whole sexual scandal that's taking place." And I agree completely with what he said. He said, "I don't want you to lose your job over that. I want you to lose your job because you're terrible at your job." and she is terrible at her job, and that's the way I feel about all of these people, because they are terrible at their jobs. And that's what these issues are masking, is the fact that they are actually terrible at doing the job that they were elected to do.
Exactly.
When you have in the state of Alabama, 17%, or more than 17% of our children going hungry and not knowing where their meals are going to come the next day. And you have a prison system that is overrun with corruption and problems. You have all sorts of issues with poverty and funding of schools and a school system that is broken. The fact that you can stand in front of anybody and talk about books that might or might not need to be banned or moved from sections. Those are these are your issues. You shouldn't be in that office. You're an idiot. You should not be in the office.
And they're wasting our time and our money and our children's futures because of this.
Well, and this is what the point is here. When they go to Montgomery or when they go to Sarasota or wherever they go there with the intent of passing bills and laws that help people and move the state forward. You know, concentrate on economic development, job creation, school education, teacher pay,
maybe
things that matter to real people.
Maybe we should get Judge Pryor to read to them what their job actually is, and maybe then they'll listen.
Well,
to what their job description is.
It's we wrote a story. Jacob Holmes wrote a story about the problems with food insecurity that we have.
Yeah.
It talked about in there some of the solutions, and one of the solutions was implementing the child tax care credit,
right?
Which was a huge And here's I have a real problem with this is the fact that we offered free lunch and breakfast to all school children and then rescinded it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we can, I hate to use this, but if we can pay for all the folks who are incarcerated to eat every meal, then we ought to be able to pay for every kid that needs to eat every meal at school, and make sure that that they're not going home hungry, and do some of the things that are done in a lot of these schools, like LeBron School. There's been maligned for some test scores and things like that. But one of the things that it actually does every single day is offers up clothing and food for all the people in the community to come in and take advantage of. And I guarantee you it has made a difference in thousands of lives.
And the thing is,
test scores.
Yeah.
And the thing is, for all the trouble they go to try to ban books, and they don't care whether these children have breakfast. One of the biggest detriments to learning is food insecurity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Being hungry.
Yes.
Because they can't concentrate. They can't learn if
Ask
they're hungry.
Any teacher in there when their worst times are. And it's right up going near lunch.
How many times do they have to hear this over and over and over again? Find somewhere to cut
They
some
don't
money.
know how to do it. That's what they're doing with this other stuff.
Well, then they're in the wrong job.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
Third
I've been
base.
saying. Yeah.
Get out.
Oh.
Get somebody in there that knows what
Left
they're
field.
doing.
I mean, yes, you're right. That's what I keep telling people. Stop voting for this nonsense and put people in that address the issues that affect you every day.
But
vote for yourself.
There's some good, caring people that are in the legislature.
I'm not, no denying.
But I think they get sidetracked because they got a small bunch over at the party that tells them, we got to get rid of those books. Them gays.
Yes.
They need to stop listening to those people and listen to the voters.
Yeah, well, they pick the voters.
Well,
so that,
they get when you pick your own voters, you're okay. But you're right. We've gerrymandered it down to the point where a select few groups of people get to decide Republican primaries at this point. And so that's who they have to cater to. Yeah. And it's a terrible system. And if you doubt that, simply ask somebody who you think is a relatively smart Republican in leadership somewhere. Yeah. And they'll tell you, this is terrible. I hate doing this all the time.
They do not want these kind of misguided and crazy bills stacking up on their desk while they're trying to actually do something. Mm-hmm. But there you go. Anyway,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. It is Merry Christmas.
It is Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to our viewers.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to y'all, and we will be back for the new year. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.